Well, everyone, the iPhone 16 Plus is one of those iPhones that has been out for about 3 months now. So let's go and see how both these iPhones kind of compare and see how they kind of hold up. Now, number one, the big thing I will definitely tell you is that the iPhone 16 Plus in a lot of ways is a really good device. It's a beautiful phone. I think it looks very, very beautiful, and I think it still is going to hold up very well when it comes down to the whole entire performance side of both these devices. I think the big thing to keep in mind here for the most part is that if you are going to go through and pick up a device, I personally do think with the 16 Plus, the display with it being so big, with it having a Super Retina XDR OLED display, with it having USB Type-C, and the big, improvements like the action button, camera button, things like that, these are really good improvements that you're getting from an iPhone 16 to an iPhone 16 Plus. Or, from an iPhone 15 to a 15 Plus, or a 16, Plus from a 15 Plus, things like that. Now, with that being said, there are some things that I've said in my iPhone 16 review that I still want to carry over into my 3-month review of the iPhone 16 Plus. Number one, I do think that some of the novelties that came with the iPhone 16 Plus, there were 2 of them, kind of make this phone seem like a weirder phone to buy when you could buy something like an iPhone 15 Plus or even like an iPhone 14 Plus, save a bunch of money and get fairly similar types of experiences. Let me explain. Number one, the camera button. That's a really big feature that basically Apple stated is going to be a really big change from their camera side. I generally do think it really wasn't that big of a difference. Like, I do like and appreciate having something like my, camera button on my iPhone 16 Plus or my 16 Pro, whatever phone, but I just don't really think it was that big of a difference. Once again, that is a small problem that you're going to be kind of experiencing here. I don't even think it's a problem, but it really just depends if you're going to be using that type of thing or not. And for me personally, I didn't really use it that much on this particular device. So I think that right there is just one of those things to keep in mind. Again, I don't really think it's that big of a deal, but if you are going to go through and pick up a device, you might end up seeing that something like another type of device that doesn't have a camera button, you're not really going to be noticing that many differences. On top of that, another thing that I also did notice is that with something like my iPhone, 15 Plus, my performance of that phone was really good. When Apple Intelligence came out, I was always upset that my iPhone 15 did not get Apple Intelligence. Now that Apple Intelligence has been out and I saw the public review of it, I've reviewed it myself, I've used it many times, it does seem like it's not that big of a difference. Siri is still having issues that it used to have before. There are still lots of bugs and issues that iOS 18 is still having 3 months in, officially, and that kind of sours the taste a little bit of using something like an iPhone 16 Plus. That was somewhat of the weirder experience that I was having here, and I do think that is another problem that you're going to be experiencing within this type of device, that as of this point, Apple Intelligence could still give you some problems, and that might not be the best experience of all time. So what I will tell you there is if you're planning on buying this phone and, thinking about it from an Apple Intelligence perspective, it may not be that big of a difference. It may not be this big change that you might be experiencing. And that could be one thing that I read, kind of think about here, that I might be giving you kind of like a watered down experience somehow. Now, with that being said, there are lots of highlights of this phone too. So the performance was really good. I've compared this phone in every single way to every other iPhone that came out before this and, other comparable Samsung phones and Google Pixels. And it's held up well, right? It's a really good performing phone. The battery life of this iPhone is really good. It's probably the iPhone with the best battery life, which is a really big advantage. And I do think if you are going to go through and pick up a phone, it's a really good device. I like it a lot. But I would probably say that the biggest asset, if I had to kind of think of one, is the battery life. This thing is a battery champ. This thing has an amazing battery. But I would say beyond that, in almost every single bone of my body, I think an iPhone 15 Plus is still a really good priced phone. And I do think if you are going to go and buy a phone, it would still make a lot of sense to go and buy a device like that might give you a pretty good experience in a lot of ways. And I do think that right there is a really, really good advantage for this type of device. So overall, that's kind of how I see the iPhone 16 Plus kind of holding up, 3 months later. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, not me so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.